And the first of that was the leaking of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, and the other was the mass shooting in Texas, followed by several others. And if there is anything that we have learned that has been driven home to us in the last couple of months, is the importance of statewide elections, because we are not going to be able to count on Supreme Court decisions, and we are not going to be able to count on Senate and Congress intervention. And so more than ever, the state legislatures are crucial, and state level leadership is crucial. So all of which brings us to where we are in the election cycle right now. A reminder that on May 24th, we had the primary. A reminder that tomorrow is the first day of early voting statewide. There have been a few counties which had weekend voting yesterday and today, but everybody begins early voting tomorrow. And a reminder that everybody votes in the runoff, right? Because there are some significant statewide Democratic runoffs. Early voting runs until this coming Friday, and the runoff election is Tuesday, the 21st. And I want to just say something about, just mention at least the very significant statewide Democratic runoffs. We've got the lieutenant governor race in a runoff. We have Secretary of State in a runoff. We have Commissioner of Labor in a runoff, and we have Commissioner of Insurance in a runoff. So very significant statewide Democratic primaries that are in a runoff, and all of us and everybody we can nab needs to vote either in early voting or June 21. I want to say just a little bit about the other legislative Democratic runoffs that are also underway. We have 2 U.S. House districts in a runoff, 1 and 10. And then we have several Georgia House districts in a runoff, 39, 61, 86, and 90. And I want to give everybody a reminder about necessary trouble and primaries. And that is that we really try to stay out of Democratic primaries. There are lots of primary races that all of us as individuals might feel very passionately about, but we as a group, for the sake of harmony and avoiding divisiveness, try to stay out of races where there are 2 good Democrats running. The only exceptions to that are when there is a dramatic difference between the candidates. And that's why we are weighing in on Georgia House District 86. That's why we are have been all the way in for Imani Barnes, because there is such a dramatic difference between Imani and her opponent, Jacqueline Adams. So that leads us to what the agenda is for today. Roughly the first part of the meeting is we are going to hear from Imani herself. We're going to hear about how her campaign is doing. We're then going to hear a little bit from Pam Woodley and maybe Pam Wishay about how the Troubler effort to support her is going. And then the middle of the meeting, we're going to be talking about, and we're going to actually be deciding on 2 other Georgia House candidates that are going to be the Troubler candidates for this election. Super important conversation, super important meeting, and we will be taking a vote to decide. And then finally, the last third of our meeting, Nakita Hemingway, who was a Troubler candidate when she was running for House District, is now the Democratic candidate for Secretary of Agriculture. Really big deal. And Nakita is going to be joining us for the last third of the meeting. So that's our agenda for today. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to Karen Davenport to introduce Nakima. Karen, it's all yours.
You mean introduce Imani?
I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry. I got tangled in our own agenda.
Right.
Introduce Imani.
Right. Thank you so much, Becky. It really is a pleasure to introduce Imani this afternoon. I was thinking earlier today about characteristics of service leadership. And as I was reflecting on that, I can honestly say that in my opinion, and as I've watched Imani and worked with her this last 6 months, that she has some of the key characteristics of a service leader. She is a good listener. And when you're a good listener, you take in what people are saying to you and think about it and put it forward. And I think she does an excellent job of doing that. She has a great deal of empathy for other people, putting her thoughts into the footsteps of other people. And I think that is so important as being a good leader. She has a sense of awareness of what's going on in her community and her world. And I think that having leadership, particularly at the state level, that has a sense of awareness of the needs of the people can only serve us well in our community. She has a commitment to the growth of people. And I think that is so important in terms of someone who's going to serve us at the state level, because we as individuals want to be heard. And she, as a leader, is open to growth. And truly, she has worked to build a community with the necessary troublers group, as well as the broader community in which she lives. I think that we need legislators that are willing to study the legislation, analyze the data, and listen to the needs of the constituents, and work hard with all types of people to get in place laws that work to improve our lives. Now, I know Imani is hardworking, and I know she's an analytical thinker, and I know she cares about people. So, I feel like all the work that the Troublers have done these past years is really going to be well spent when Imani wins this election. Imani, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can share a little bit about some of the highlights of the campaign so far and any other thoughts that you would like. And as Imani is talking, if you have some questions, please write them in the chat and we'll let her respond. Imani, it's on to you.
Wow, how do I follow up after that introduction? You got me choked up over here, so I appreciate that. I'm a very humble individual, so sometimes I don't even realize how hard I go and the impact that I have. But I appreciate everyone on this call for being on this call, and I really appreciate the necessary troublers. They have been vital to where I'm at right now. So excuse me, and I thank you all. I really appreciate y'all. Excuse me.
We love you, Imani.
And you're among a group of criers. Don't worry.
So I just want to say thank you. And it means a lot because we all met at Tucker. You guys kind of caught me when I was in the runoff at Tucker. And I tried to do a lot by myself. And I didn't know how much I needed a team. And you all just stepped up and kind of told me what I needed, even when I didn't know. And so that experience allowed us to grow as a team, as a family. And I've grown, as Ms. Davenport said, I've grown immensely just from running in the Tucker race, which was probably just to prepare me for this platform. And that's what I take it as. And so I learned that I needed a whole team, and I got a team. And you guys are perfect because many are retired and able to help me out while I'm able to work and still provide for my child. So it means so much. And then the organization from the ground game to the mailers, and now we have someone that taught us how to phone bank and text. And so this is vital to this campaign. As was said earlier, my competition, or not competition, but the other lady in the runoff, the other opponent is detrimental to our community. We don't want someone who will show as a Democrat, but have support from Republicans and allow them to sway her ideals that don't line up with what we want for our community. So I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for our whole community. And even if you don't live directly in my district, it will affect us all eventually. And so I am one that works very hard. I am a scientist by nature. My mom was a scientist, and so I grew up in science. And so I am very analytical, and I will work hard when I get in the Gold Dome to continue to research legislature, probably in ways that a lot of people don't. And I'll be able to pick out things that will benefit us or will hurt us and be able to stand up. And now I'm learning how to have a bigger voice on a bigger platform. And so I'm better able to stand up against those laws and policies and fight for policies that will benefit us. And so the campaign is doing well right now. As I stated, we have mailers being prepared, but we need money to pay for everything. So we need donations, as much money that we can donate and fundraise within these next, I think it's eight or 9 days, because we have to get these mailers out ASAP, and postage is expensive. And we're sending out about 1,000 mailers, I believe. Also, we have yard signs that are being swept up as soon as we're putting them out. And our competition's yard signs are flooding the areas, and ours are disappearing. And so we're having to replace those. And right now they're about $5 a piece. And so we just were able to purchase 50, but we need way more than that. So this is where the donations come into play. And we're also doing robocalls and text banking. And so even if you can't give financially, we still need help and volunteers for texting and phone calls, because we're getting great feedback from the community that I have even friends that have said, somebody called me about your campaign. And I'm saying, great. So it's getting out there, the word is getting out there, and it takes all of these aspects of this campaign to get us over the finish line, because my opponent has run before. And so her name is already out there, and her husband was a commissioner previously. And so their name is well known in the political world, where mine is known in the scientific world. So we're getting that push, and we just need continued support from you all. And I appreciate it. I've talked enough. We can have any questions.
I'll ask a question. Imani, what have you worked out with Emory for when you win, as far as your time?
So in the works, I'm trying to go part-time and, work my part-time hours, which will still give me my benefits and everything that I need to sustain. So that's my plan.
That's great.
Any other questions?
Imani, why don't you also tell us some of the other organizations that are supporting you and have endorsed you?
Right. So the Necessary Troublers are my rock. Also, I've been endorsed by Georgia Equality, Victory Fund, the Collective PAC, which is out of DC, and they support African Americans in politics. I've been endorsed by the Georgia Federation of Teachers, so that it's my support from the educational platform, and the 314 Coalition, who supports scientists. So that's a huge endorsement. That was one of my first endorsements. Yeah, I'm working hopefully on Georgia win list. We had an interview last week, so we'll see how that goes.
Imani, I have a question. Lubos. Imani, how do you feel about what is your the competitor Miss Adams, saying and doing? What has she been? What is her platform? Has she resisted any attacks or things like that? What is your concept of her race, if you would please, for us,
So-
the troublers?
So my opponent is being funded from Betsy DeVos's education. Well, she's being funded, her mailers are being funded. So that's one negative situation that we do not want to be a part of, which privatizes public schools. So we don't want to be a part of that. We had a debate yesterday with the DeKalb Democrats, and she was throwing little shots about me jumping from one campaign to another, which I feel like is a positive thing that I'm continuing on in politics. She's also claiming that she was unaware of the mailer from the Betsy DeVos PAC. And so not taking ownership for being a part of that, which we do not want. I'm very transparent. Do not lie to my constituents or my citizens. So I don't understand how you will be unaware of, you have to do surveys and interviews to get these endorsements. And so there's no way that someone can just pick you out and just place you on a flyer. So we have to be careful about that. And also our signs are disappearing. Lou is the sign guy, and Lou works very hard in putting our signs out, and he keeps seeing ours gone and theirs placed where ours were. And now there is so frequent, they're not even lasting for a day. And so that's their game. We'll let them play a dirty game, but we'll continue to be run by facts. We want to continue to only spread facts that we can corroborate with our campaign. And we do not want to deface anybody's property. So we'll continue to run a trustful and truthful campaign.
Okay, I think we probably have time for one more question before Pam needs to share some information. Pam Woodley. Well, Imani, thank you so much for meeting with us today. We will continue to forge ahead. We have a few days left. We're all going to work together and make this happen.
Thank you, everyone who's donating, and thank you, everyone who's riding this train with us. We're going to take it. We're going to celebrate in a week or in a couple of days. So let's keep working hard. And I really appreciate you, because I am working nonstop out here.
Okay, thank you, Imani.
Thank you.
Imani. All right, now I'm going to turn this over to Pam.
Yeah, as you could see from Imani, this has all taken a lot out of her. It's hard. It's really hard, working full time and being a mother and running a campaign. But I am so proud of the Troublers. We have been amazing, if I do say so myself. Just for the runoff now, we've got a big team of phone bankers and of canvassers. The phone banking calls, I think we've made about 500 calls. And our star in that is shy, sweet little Jane Hudson. So when I saw how many calls Jane was making, I said, oh my gosh, she's so sweet and shy. I think she hates phone banking, but apparently she has loved it. So Jane, I think, can you just say a couple words? Because I don't do much phone banking, so. Oh, can she, yeah.
Well, I will say that I've talked to some wonderful people and talked with people who know Imani, talked with a woman today whose daughter went to school with Imani, and she was not even aware that Imani was in a runoff. She thought Imani had lost during the primary. So I've talked to many people who have not known about the runoff or who haven't known about early voting. It's also been really fascinating because these are really educated and interested voters. One woman just grilled me. She did not want me to get off the phone. She wanted me to tell her Imani's position on every Every issue. What's her position on gun control? What about abortion? What about schools? What about, I mean, she was just wanting to know all of it. So it really has been a pleasure to talk with people. And a woman today said, I am so glad you called because I kept thinking that June 21st was an important date, but I couldn't remember what it was. So make those calls, you'll be surprised.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the other star in this area has been Amy Carpenter. But also Martha Reese, Martha Laird, Martha Abbott Shim, Glenda Tramer, and Seth Reuter have all made calls. And so it's easy. The system is so easy. I just send you a link and you just click on the link and the numbers start popping up. We do leave a lot of messages. We have a short message that you leave if people don't answer the phone, which happens a lot. But yeah, like Jane said, both the canvassing and the phone banking lists are all very strong Democrats, because this is a runoff to a primary. So those, that's who we focus on in this kind of situation, because those are the only people that go vote. So in general, they are people, on our side, happy to hear from us. Canvassing, we have also done, canvassing, we've done more than 600 doors just for this runoff. We're focusing really just on 4 precincts in the Tucker-Clarkston area, because again, in our lists for people to contact, all we know is that they're very strong Democrats. Of course, we don't know if they voted for Imani or for her opponent in the primary. We don't know that. So instead, we are focusing on the precincts where Imani did very well. We were able to get precinct level results. And Imani did really well in Tucker and in Clarkston, where she does have some name recognition. Her opponent is stronger down south. So that's where we're focusing. The phone banking is actually the entire district, but it's a little stricter criteria as far as being strong Democrats. So yes, so we would love volunteers for either canvassing or phone banking. Again, all these things, you just do as much as you can. Start when you want, quit when you want. And I think that's it. Yeah, Lou, let me just mention the signs real quick. Lou again, and Lou wanted me to call out Michelle Casper and her family. I guess they've become a really big, important part of the sign team.
Thank you, Pam. I don't know if we can also give an update about where we are with the texting. Pat, I don't know if
we're moving slowly ahead. The holdup has been that it's enormously complicated to get the system set up and then connect it to Vote Builder. And so I think we're this close to being able to do some texting, and all the texters are waiting now as soon as it's ready, and it'll be focused on 5,000 strong voters, so it's not like it'll take a huge amount of time to do it. It's just waiting for the system to be set up. There'll be probably 3 texts. One will introduce Imani, another one will bring up the Adams support by DeVos, and then the last one would be GOTV on vote on the 21st. So we've still got time and hope that the system will get in place for us.
Great. All right, well, we want to give everybody a pat on the back for all their hard work and a round of applause, and we just keep up the energy and keep moving forward. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over to Martha Laird. Martha, you're going to share with us some information about voter protection. Thank you.
Oh, yes, sure. I've made this announcement a couple of times, but to update you, there's a group of us now, it's about 40 people strong, who are working with Naomi Barnes, who's the new voter protection director of the Democratic Party. And we're doing research work, a lot of it, trying to get in place what's really going on at the county level. Our task right now is finding out who's actually on the Board of Elections as members and which party they belong to, because the Democratic Party is planning to do some training with these people this summer so that they're ready to address any challenges to voters that come up. So that can be already trained people on the ground ready to do it. And they're also going to use this data to expand the liaison program that the DPG has in every county, or not every county yet, but in some of the big counties, working with boards of elections members to strengthen the voter protection aspect of all this. So what we're doing as our group is you have 4 or 5 counties that are your counties. And right now it's a web-based thing. You look up the county boards of elections, you get some information, you call the staff to get some more information. It takes for each county right now about probably 15 minutes. So it's very quick. We're going to finish that by the 17th. So if you're interested, you could join us for the next wave. And we need some people because life happens now that COVID has opened up a little bit. People are going on vacation, all this. So we need some backups. So if you are at all interested, put your name in the chat and you call it the county survey. If you're interested in county survey work, you don't have to walk out of your house at all. We'd be glad to include you in the team.
Beautiful. Martha, thank you so much. Karen, thank you so much. And before we move too far away from these kind of volunteer opportunities, I just want to say again, if anybody's interested in the voter protection work, put your name in the chat and with the words county survey. If anybody is still willing to help with this last push of canvassing, put your name in the chat. The last push of phone banking, put your name in the chat. And Linda Gooding, if you would drop in the donate link again one more time for people who might just be joining us. What Imani really, really needs right now is a little last financial push so that we can send out this mailer statewide. It has to go out Wednesday. Beyond that, it's worthless. So we just have a couple more days to boost her funds so we can save this. Thank you so much. And huge gratitude to Martha for the voter protection work, and also especially for the PAMs for coordinating the extraordinary effort for Imani's campaign. So great gratitude. We have Troublers full in right now, it feels, and that is really great. That is just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to keep going and we're going to start talking about this next, actually the next phase of work also for the Troublers. Let me share this here. Okie dokie. So let me say a little bit about, and I'm kind of switching gears. I'm going beyond the runoff. For the next, week and 10 days, we are going to be all in with Imani, and we are going to be by her side assuming she wins for the rest of the election also. But we're also going to be expanding our focus after this runoff. And now we also start thinking about the strategy for between the runoff and November. And some of this is a little repetition, but I want to make sure that all of this is kind of in our bones. Everywhere we work between the runoff and November, we will be talking about Abrams, Warnock, and the Democratic slate. We're going to be doing that whatever geographic districts we are focusing on. We're going to be talking about Governor Abrams, Senator Warnock, and the Democratic slate. But we're also going to be very specific about where we're going to be doing that work. Because what we would like to do is we would like to be talking about the Democratic slate in Georgia House districts where we can also have an impact. right? We want to be working in competitive districts where not only can we lift the Democratic slate, but we can also either preserve or flip some districts. And we're talking about the House districts because that's where the competitive districts are. And I'm going to remind folks of the presentations that we did a couple of months ago as a reminder that there are really very few competitive congressional districts, very few competitive state Senate districts, but there are several competitive Georgia House districts. And so that's where we're going to be looking. And a reminder also about why the Georgia House matters. It matters because we need, for a Democratic governor, we need for a Governor Stacey Abrams to have stronger legislative support. And even though we really are not going to flip the Georgia House this year, if we can flip some of those seats and if we can hold on to the seats we have, we can get a little bit closer to our longer term goal of flipping the Georgia House. So instead of flipping that in 3 or 4 cycles, maybe we can flip it in 1 or 2. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We have, and I say we broadly, Karen McCowan has done a tremendous job of being our data analytics specialist. For this effort, she has pored over the data related to House districts. We've been looking at where are the most important competitive Georgia House districts. And particularly, we've been looking at those that are right at or above 50% Democrat, because if we don't hold on to those seats, we are in deep trouble. So you're going to be hearing from 4 troublers who are each presenting one, each one is going to be presenting a different Georgia House race. And each of those races is at risk, right? They are each at risk. They are all within Metro Atlanta, and all of them can use troubler help. And so what we would like to do is present these 4 candidates and 4 districts to you, and then we're going to ask you to choose 2 of them. We're going to do a vote at the end to choose 2 of them. So at this point, I'm going to turn the first one over to Pat Byrd to talk about Representative Jasmine Clark. Pat?
I was thinking earlier today about that many of you were probably at our house on May the 6th in 2018 when we first met Jasmine Clark. She was coming to talk with us about the run in her district, which was at that point a flippable district, and one that she flipped in 2018. And if you remember, when she came in, she was new at being a candidate, and she had her comments on her telephone, and she was trying to read them and talk to us. And this is a person who's become one of the most accomplished public speakers in the Georgia General Assembly. And we saw the beginning of her becoming an outstanding legislator. In the 2018, then, she flipped the district. In 2020, she won again. She has, in 2020, the same opponent that she will have now. In 2020, she got 55% of the vote to his 45%. The issues that she is working on, affordable health care, improve public schools to meet the needs of all students, and increased minimum wage for better jobs, public transportation to get Gwinnett residents to work in other parts of Atlanta, climate change. And when she talks about climate change, she also talks about economic growth from expanded creation of renewable energy. So she's always putting things into a context of how she can improve things and improve the opportunities of her citizens for work. And then she talks about guns as a public health issue. When I talked with her a week or so ago, she was saying that she was at her daughter's school when they heard about the shooting in Texas. Oh. And she just wanted to get her daughter and get her out of that school and get her home. And then she was thinking, well, we've got one more day to get through, and then this summer we've got to figure this out because she's afraid and I'm afraid. So we have a woman in the legislature who knows what our children are going through. She's a strong Democrat, and she's somebody that troublers know really well. Her support for the same values that drive necessary trouble, her outstanding public speaking skills to carry her message to many audiences, her outgoing nature, her work ethic, her ability to grow and change. And we've seen these since May 6 in 2018. She told me when we talked that there are 4 challenges that she's going to have to deal with in this campaign. The first challenge is that the new version of HD 108 has 4 different population groups with different histories of voting and not always in agreement with each other about issues. The current population of her district, HD 108, is around 60,000 people. The current people of voting age, about 44,000 people. And of that, the Black voting group, 18%, the Asian voting population, 19%, Hispanic voting population, 18%. So a total minority voting population, voting age population of 57%, with a white voting population age of 43%. So that's a lot of different groups for her to get to know and to work with, and that's one of the challenges for the 2022 election. The second challenge to her is that the changes in the district mean that there are many new residents who haven't had a history with her. They don't know her yet, and that they maybe don't even know that they've been changed from districts and who they're going to be voting for. The third challenge is there's a close majority for Democrats. Research puts the percentage at about 52 to 54%. Jasmine feels that it's really closer to 51%. So turnout will control who wins. And in 2020, only about 27,000 people actually voted in the election. So getting people engaged and out to vote. The fourth challenge, her Republican challenger is Johnny Crist, is former mayor of Lilburn, so he has some name recognition in the district, and he has money. She beat him in 2020, but the district has changed somewhat since then. He is an extremist on abortion, would allow no exceptions for rape or incest or mother or child health, worked as a lobbyist for an organization fighting for no exception anti-abortion laws. He's also extreme in his support for gun ownership and open carry. He's an anti-government Republican, except when it comes to government power over women's bodies. And what Jasmine needs for necessary trouble, she really wants to do some postcards and postcarding to carry out her message to her new constituents. She was delighted to learn that we now can do some canvassing, and she of course needs donations. Her website is, if you could list that give us for us, Linda. It's a wonderful website which includes some videos of her with the constituents who represent the different areas of work that she's doing. And she now has a podcast called The Suburban Woman Problem, which is on Apple Podcasts. I think you might enjoy taking a look at that and seeing the kinds of issues that she and her 3 colleagues, who are former Republicans, now Democrats, talk about. So Jasmine Clark, our longtime friend.
Very nice, Pat. Thank you so very much. And so really evident that that this is a harder cycle for Jasmine than it was 2 years ago, or even 2 years before that. A little bit of a tougher race. Okay, next candidate, Karen McCowan, is going to talk to us about Kelly Kaufman. Karen, you might be muted.
Yes, I was muted. Sorry.
Okay,
I was
all
and
yours.
I was struggling to find, yes, the mute button. Okay, yes, House District 53 is a new reconfigured district that is in the Buckhead, Sandy Springs, and Roswell area. It is now long and skinny. When it was in its previous iteration, it was more compact and contiguous, but it has been redesigned to apparently allow Deborah Silcox, a Republican who was defeated in 2018, had been a member of the House of Representatives, but was defeated by a Democrat in 2018, and they've redrawn the district to allow her to give her the best chance to run again. So the district is, as I say, kind of long and thin. It is, however, within 20 to 35 minutes from the Toco Hills area. The part near Buckhead is about 20 minutes away. If you go up to Roswell, it's about 35 minutes away. Kelly Kaufman is a first-time candidate who was recruited to run in the district. She's an impressive woman. She is a psychiatrist, specializing, her title is forensic scientist, but that means specializing in prison populations. She also specializes in maternal health care. She's an adjunct professor at Emory. And if that wasn't enough, she has 3 children, the oldest of which is about 6. She apparently was pregnant with her youngest child when she qualified. I've had a couple of conversations with her and with her campaign manager, Morgan, who is also is a young, very competent woman, although this is her first campaign that she has managed. She worked with League of Women Voters and Fair Fight, who is now endorsing Kelly Kaufman, and they plan to work with the coordinated campaign as well. We went over a list of issues that matter, that we as a committee identified as being important to necessary trouble, that include healthcare, certainly education, gun safety, social justice issues. She's also, not surprisingly, very concerned about mental health care, expanding Medicaid, of course, reproductive rights. She counsels women who are planning to become pregnant, who are pregnant. And of course, she's very concerned about gun safety, especially as a mother of 3 young children. There are other local groups in the area. One thing I was interested in finding out is if there were other local groups that could perhaps partner with us and strengthen our numbers, that she is in contact with, and I think there are. And to wrap up, of course, like most candidates, fundraising is a big concern with hers. I talked to, on our conversation, I talked to Morgan, the campaign manager, who has meet and greets lined up for her and fundraising meetings lined up for her, but that's something she's going to have to deal with is just the financial obligations of running a campaign and field work, including canvassing. One thing too, I want to talk to her about, including, in conjunction with the local groups, is postcarding. I mean, I think that could be a very effective campaign if it comes from a local group. But anyway, I will put her, I'm excited about her. I think she's a terrific candidate. I think she's a terrific fit for the district. And I will put her website in the chat.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so next up is next candidate Dugal and Pam Woodley. Would you tell us about this candidate and the district?
I will. So Georgia House District, actually it's 99, not 9, it's Duluth, Sewanee, Sugar Hill, which is my main concern about adopting him, because that is like a 45 drive minimum. That's with no traffic. So it would be really challenging to do any actual on the ground work for him. But I haven't talked to him directly. I have gone back and forth with his campaign manager, who is Brenda Lopez Romero, who was in the state house until recently. And then I think she ran against Carolyn Bordeaux or somebody. Yeah. But she is his campaign manager. He has been involved in the Gwinnett Democrats, and Brenda was the head of Gwinnett Democrats. And Brenda, Brenda is working as his campaign manager. So this district, in addition to being kind of far away, it is very diverse, which is one reason why I think Ohm is a great candidate for his district. I'm really excited that he's running. The district is 34% Asian, 42% white, and then 24 Black and Hispanic. And Ohm he's clearly very involved in his community. He's very connected, mainly through businessy stuff. He's a businessman and he's an entrepreneur. And I don't think that's bad for a, borderline red, I mean, not that we're anti-business, but, a lot of times we look for more progressive kinds of passions, but, this is a borderline red area, somebody that's really connected in the business world, I think is absolutely fine, because he does seem to be a real Democrat. He is a registered Democrat. He put out a statement after the Supreme Court leak about being strongly pro-choice. He's for Medicaid expansion. He's for affordable housing. He's for the, expanding the right to vote. And he is for helping immigrant populations, of which he was one. He came from India 20 years ago and became a successful businessman. He owns hotels and he is in some property development. Now, there's nothing about LGBTQ rights, criminal justice, guns reform. None of that is on his website. I don't think those are real passions of his, but again, it's okay. We got to have good fits for these various districts. When I asked Brenda about his positions, they say all the right things about those issues. The business things he's involved in, the community things he's on the Gwinnett Chamber, he's on the Sugarloaf Community Improvement District, and he's on the Gwinnett Airport Authority, along with some other things. Personally, he's got a wife, 3 children, and his 98-year-old father lives with him. So again, I think seems like a great fit for this district. I'm excited about him. I don't think his needs are as strong as certainly Imani's were. He's clearly, he's older. He's been very successful business-wise. He does, Brenda said he does have 4 paid vendors on his staff, which I'm not sure what that means. But so I think he's got 2 major dings. That is where he's located, too far away. And that I think he does have, access to a fair amount of resources.
Great. Pam, thank you so very much. Okay. Next up is Farouk Mughal and Linda Gooding. Would you tell us about Farouk Mughal and District 105?
District 105 and Farouk Mughal. I am I'm taking over kind of at the last minute for Mary Lou, so there may be some gaps in here, but I have a pretty good feeling for Farouk. He's a first time candidate for office. He's running for House District 105, which is in DeKalb County, is in Gwinnett County. Towns are Decula, Lawrenceville. It's a bit out, but it's not too far for us. And as it says on here, if elected, he will be the first Pakistani American elected to public office in the state. He's a 40-something-year-old businessman. His parents were immigrants. He lists Mercer as his undergrad and Harvard Law School, so he's an attorney. And he worked as an attorney at King and Spalding in Atlanta before founding his own company. And I think moving into this area right around the same time, which would have been between 15 and 17 years ago. And his company's called MS Global Partners. He says it specializes in advising clients in areas of public policy. And he became very interested. This came up in the interview he did with Mary Lou. He became very interested in his being a public persona after 9/11. And he has done sort of postgraduate training at the Government Affairs Institute of Georgetown University. And he's also done pretty extensive training with something called the FBI Citizens Academy, which I've never heard of before, in the service of, as he said, working with local leaders to speak and introduce Islam to his neighbors. And so he's let's see, his specialty in his business appears to be public-private economic development projects. And he claims to have represented almost $1 billion in such projects during his career. And so he's very, very familiar clearly with the work of the Georgia legislature. And he's got quite a number of awards, particularly during the Obama administration. His leadership earned him an invitation to the White House in 2013 and a nice picture shaking hands with Barack. There's lots of evidence of political and community engagement, he's part of the Gwinnett and state chambers of commerce and the Gwinnett Democratic Party. So he has a website that I will put the link on to up there. He's clearly a Democrat. But his website's a little bit general. He talks about supporting schools and teachers, investing in economic development and small businesses, supporting minority businesses, protecting our civil and voting rights, public safety, improving infrastructure. Kind of general on his website. In his interview with Mary Lou, he pointed out that she has a series of questions she asked him. One was about women's reproductive rights, and he pointed out that he has been endorsed by a right to choose organization, but I don't know which one. He says Americans should have the right to choose. He's in favor of common sense gun control, licensing, background checks, no assault weapons. She felt he hadn't quite thought through some issues having to do with sort of more lefty issues, transgender people using the bathrooms. When she asked him about gerrymandering and Medicaid expansion, she got the impression that he wasn't entirely clear about what those issues are. It seems like he is way clearer about business and business activities than he is about some of those other issues. She said he was warm, friendly, well-spoken, and expressed a commitment to work very hard to get elected and serve the community. He lists quite a few endorsements, including by the person that currently owns this seat, and by Sam Park, who's somebody we know, who's another legislator in the House, Georgia House, from House District 101 in Gwinnett. So I think that's it. I'll put his, I'll put the information about his websites, both his campaign website, which doesn't have a lot of information, and his business website that has a lot of information about who he is. I think he could probably win. And the only piece I can add to this is I don't know what he needs, because I don't think we got that piece of information.
Great. Linda, thank you. And thank you for stepping in at the last moment to cover for Mary Lou also. Lots of gratitude to all these folks, the troublers who talked to these candidates to try to do a little bit of vetting. A reminder that we were really intentional about trying to find this overlap of where were the competitive districts that were within driving range of Atlanta. There were some very interesting competitive seats, but far too far away for us really to be able to access easily. So these are the four that are most competitive and that are within Metro Atlanta. The order in which they were presented is the order in which they were also geographically closest. We're going to use just downtown Decatur as a point of reference. So Jasmine's district is probably closest. Kelly Kaufman is about the same distance, maybe a tiny bit further, Dukal further than that, and then Farouk Mughal further than that. So that's also a factor in terms of if we're thinking about doing canvassing. So we are going to do a poll. And Pat, if you would go ahead and let me just make sure that okay, never mind. Here is the poll. And if you would select two, and this is kind of the honor system. So if you would select your top two choices in terms of candidates for necessary trouble, Georgia House District candidates for necessary trouble to support. And again, this is in addition to supporting Abrams, Warnock, and the Democratic slate. And if you would go ahead and select two of those and click submit, we will make a decision together.
Becky, should we say, and when Imani goes through?
Yes.
She wins her runoff.
Yes. When Imani wins her runoff, we are not going to disappear completely, right? We are not going to disappear completely. But her district is a very, very Democratic district. So she is not going to need, we're not working on a really fierce, tight campaign in Imani's district. She's going to need much less from us than any of these other folks we're looking at. So we will be with her, but we won't be with her in anything like what the last, several weeks have been like. So, Pat, you tell us when it looks like you're done. And you're muted, Pat.
Okay. It looks to me like everybody who wanted to vote has now voted. This is an anonymous poll too, so yeah, I think that we're okay. You want me to go ahead and end it so we can see?
Yeah. Okay, it is. Oh, Jasmine Clark, 100%. Thank you so much. Jasmine Clark, 100%, and next is Kelly Kaufman. And so we are in for Jasmine Clark and Kelly Kaufman. We had 8% for Dugal, 8% for Farouk Mughal, and I hope that those folks will be with us with Jasmine Clark and Kelly Kaufman. Those are our two Georgia House candidates. And much gratitude to all of you for choosing. Much gratitude to all of the troublers who did some vetting. And here we go. All right. And speaking of the Democratic slate, we have just been joined by Nakita Hemingway, and I am going to turn this over to Pam Wishay to introduce her with great glory and appreciation and hoorays for Nakita. So Pam, would you unmute yourself and introduce Nakita?
I am so happy to do this, Becky, here. I was so delighted when Becky asked me to introduce Nakita because I recall, I mean, all of you will recall when, in fact, we worked with Nakita on House District 104 up in Gwinnett and such there, and just how impressed we were with her as an entrepreneur, as a flower farmer, as a realtor, as a person of many, many skills, a mom of 4 kids, husband, etc. She lives up in Decula, and really, and I couldn't. And then she lost only by, less than 800 votes for against a 3-term incumbent Republican here in that district. So it was an uphill slog, and she did great. And therefore, I was delighted myself personally when I saw her on the ballot for the statewide race for Secretary of Agriculture and such. And so one of my huge delights when I looked at the results the day after the primary was to see that Nakita not only did well, but that she won the primary just outright. So just before this, I went to her website. By the way, everyone should go to Nakita's website, because I have to say, I'm not sure I've ever seen a website that I have been more impressed with. Not only by putting out what the issues were, and for her, like issues were, which I totally agree with, No Child Hungry program, locally grown food, farm recovery program, the Ending Human Trafficking program, and her basically ideas for all of those things, and so much information, informative and inspirational. And I will close out by just reading one thing that was in her vision, which was to say she was looking to forge a new chapter in our state's history. Our task, as she wrote, our task is to generate a movement so mighty, a powerful, unstoppable force that we build together, so as to override all threats to our democracy, and to do so with grace, with compassion, and with empathy for all. Now is the time. We are the way. Nakita, you are the way. And we cannot wait to hear how it was different running statewide, and how you pulled off on the primary, and how you are going to win in November, and what we can do for you. Okay. Thanks so much. And everyone, if you will put your questions in the chat as Nakita is talking, we'll come back to those afterwards.
Thank you so much. So Pat, and I'm going, Pat, I received your email and just saw it the other day. And I want to, 2 days ago, and I want to tell you, thank you so much, because that was so kind of you. Necessary Trouble, this division is like family to me, because you guys were there from the very beginning. And Pam, you put a couple of tears in my eyes. Thank you so much. Such a warm introduction. But yeah, we did it, despite the fact that we did not get the results that we want. And I say we as in Necessary Trouble and myself. In 2020, that race was groundbreaking. We knew that redistricting was on the ballot, and that loss for us, and our impact was so monumental that they divided House District 104 into 3. They drew me into Donna McLeod's district out of Congressional District 10 and into Congressional District 7. They split this district so that there is now House District 111. So Farouk Mogul will be my state House representative in this new district. And then Chuck Efstration now has the old House District 104. So if ever there is anything to inspire you to keep going, not that you guys need it, just know that we were very impactful because they were really scared. So, on the slate of people who supported me, one was Sarah Riggs Miko. And in 2020, I called her to kind of get some advice and on, what my next step should be, because that loss hurt tremendously. And I kid you not, she answered the phone by saying, "Hey, Nakita, I hope you're calling to tell me you're planning on running for Commissioner of Agriculture for the state because the work is not done." And I said, "Well, Sarah, funny that you mention it." And so that's how this leg of the race began. You guys know my heart, and it has always been how we can stand up and fight for the things that we value most, and make life better for all. And when Adrienne White inspired me to run for House District 104, her words to me were, "The issues you were experiencing in Gwinnett County is happening all over the state." And that certainly is true today. And so agriculture is my first love. My ancestors were rice farmers off of the coast of the Savannah River on the South Carolina side. I am a fourth generation farmer. I understand land use. I understand agritourism. I understand what it means to live in poverty from the top to the bottom of the state, but I also know how to solve those issues too. And right now, more than ever, we need intelligent minds and we need compassionate people sitting at the helm of seats like Commissioner of Agriculture, like Governor of Georgia, because we're in economic crisis. Our democracy is in trouble, and just there is this underlining crisis of humanity that we're seeing breaking down in our nation. And I really believe this is the time in which we fight the hardest, but it is possible. We can achieve these goals. And Pam did such an excellent job of reading, all of the things that I am fighting for, but there is another aspect to this, which is those state representatives and those leaders who are throughout the state in some of the invisible areas. We had the state dinner a couple of months ago, and at the end of it, I had a great time, but I got in my car and I was in tears because they're young leaders who are in their early 20s and 30s, and they don't have the resources we have here in the Metro Atlanta area. They don't have leaders to look to help them, and they really are the voice of their community. And so for me, running this statewide race means being able to get in and to help them win their races, and also encourage them to continue to be leaders in their community. So I am excited about this chapter of the race. And you guys, let me tell you, we only raised $65,000 for a statewide race. And not only did we win, we won 157 of 159 counties outright. So I'm buckling in. We have a great strategy around us, and I am looking forward to solving some of the issues. Solving childhood hunger, it's not an issue of resources, it's an issue of policy. And I believe that is something we can achieve. Food prices are the highest they have been in 40 years. Inflation is 9%. All of these are achievable. We could have achievable and realistic outcomes for the people of Georgia, and that is what I'm committed to. So I'm gonna stop speaking, and I've been painting my house, you guys. So I literally have been painting up until about an hour ago. So I am gonna open the floor for any questions, and ask anything you like. I'm here, and I'm just so excited for us to get back into this race again.
Thank you so much, Nakita. And I see that Pat has one of the first questions to sort of say, how did you get organized for a statewide race?
Wow, so a lot of learning. What we did was we came up with a strategy. Our vision for this race was to fall in love with agriculture, and it really was educating the voters throughout the state all of the beautiful things that agriculture is and all of the ways the Department of Agriculture impacts their lives.
Hmm.
And it was very much grassroots. A lot of traveling in my car, Pat, one-day trips, and just sitting and talking with voters. And when people see that you care, the dollars don't matter, even though we need it. But all the things that you lack or you feel their shortcomings, you make up for it just in building those relationships. I should also say that I have a lot of family in South Georgia, and that really helped in this particular race. So
Very good, very good. What do you now moving forward? What do you anticipate would be the most difficult aspect going into the general election?
yes, so one of the things we sought to do very early on, and this goes back to Pat's question, was to learn from some of the statewide races before. We analyzed, Daniel Blackman's race. I thought the data was very relevant to what we would experience in this race. We understood that much like the Public Service Commission, this was highly voter education. And so, spending time understanding exactly what this department does and translating that into language where the voters get it the first time around, that really was the biggest thing. So even though I consider this like a team meeting for me with you guys, one of the things I let people know is the Department of Agriculture makes decisions about everything that you make decisions about and everything that you hold and value in your life. This department regulates grocery stores, gas stations, convenience stores, bottled water, manufactured foods, equine and pet health care, animal breeding, our veterinarian clinics. So I go on and let them know all of the spaces in which this department impacts their lives. And I believe it stays there. And we just keep language and talking points really simple. And so that has helped in communicating with voters. So this is the biggest thing is going to be voter education going forward, and sticking to how this department can make a difference for Georgia's economy, but also in individual lives.
Okay, thank you so much. And there are more questions here. I did want to ask though, if you only raised $65,000 for the primary and such, what is your goal? And how can we help you with that? I see that there is a donation link that is here, and I hope everybody is paying attention to that and we'll do that. But do you have a goal there for financially?
Yes, I do. So my goal is $1 million. My opponent, the Republican, was sitting on $1 million going into the primary.
Wow.
He's
Wow.
also, yes, and I should. So there are several things I want to share with you guys, and I definitely love feedback on it because we are still trying to figure out how we're going to paint the narrative of my opponent. But he is a documented insurrectionist. He was in DC on January 5th and 6th. He is Trump supported, Purdue supported, Gary Blacken supported. He is a seventh, even though he's changed talking points, but he is a seventh generation farmer. And they have typically used, he's a state senator, he's a 3-term state senator, and he sat on the Ag Committee, and they have typically used those resources to stomp out their competition rather than fight for the communities. And it just so happens that the human trafficking ring that we have been very vocal about is in his district. So in reference to him, painting a clear narrative where voters actually get it is going to be important for us. As it relates to fundraising, and the reason I mentioned that, we're just sticking with our talking points. And I also have been sharing with people the history of this department, which means, or which is, when I win, I will be the first African American woman in our nation's history to hold this position.
Whoa.
Georgia is one of 12 states that actually elects its commissioner or secretary of agriculture. There have been to date 3 African Americans who have been appointed under Democratic governors to serve as commissioner of agriculture. And that happened in the state of Virginia, and I believe 1 in Arkansas, but no African American has ever been elected.
Wow.
And for Georgia, what this also means is I will also be the first woman. So.
Wow. So Georgia has many things to contribute in this coming
Yes.
general election here, and this one
Yes.
sounds like a big one here. So I'm going to go back to the questions here, and the maybe we can think with you in terms of the thorny issue of your opponent, and but I think your talking points are just fantastic here. So looking at this and thinking issues, like there are questions here like, what types of policies would you support to help eliminate hunger and poverty? And what is the most pressing issue in the Georgia ag business sector? Those are 2 things.
Yes, so there's 68,000 farmers in the state of Georgia, and majority of the farmers within the state must maintain a 9-to-5 job in addition to farming in order to support their families. So to me, the issues, the 2 questions are interchangeable, which is food security is the biggest issue. The war with Ukraine, Russia's war with Ukraine is the bread belt of Europe. It accounts for 1/3 of the grains. It also accounts for over half of seed oil, like sunflower oil, canola oil, which for us, we use a lot of those in our cosmetics and our cleaning products. And then when we're talking about global warming and climate change, this year we had wildfires beginning as far back as April in the Midwest. So places like Nebraska was getting hit. Then we had blizzards in the Northeast. So there is this huge strain on our food system right now. And what I want to do is expand the opportunities for Georgia farmers to get their products on the tables of Georgia families. One of the things I want to do is, are you guys familiar with the website that's called Etsy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I want to create a state-run website, and we already have the budget for it. It doesn't cost any taxpayers any additional money, so no additional money for us. But I want to create a website that operates very similarly to Etsy, because it's impossible to think that farmers have time to be web developers and marketers. Here you can go online, create a website for your farm, put all of your products. And for Georgia consumers, there's only one website to remember. You don't have to know all 68,000 farmers. You go online, you select the products you want. They're either shipped to you, you pick those up. There's one checkout. This way, all the farmers get the money directly to them, and you, the consumer, only have that one website. So I want to make sure that we have access to locally grown food in abundance. I also want to make sure that it's impossible to have a farmer's market in all 159 counties. But if we can ensure that we have a farmer's market within 5 to 25 miles, depending on where you are within certain communities in Georgia, I believe that physical aspect is also beneficial not only to the community in terms of access to food, but smaller entrepreneurs and artisans who rely on that traffic and that environment in order to grow their businesses. So I look at using the Department of Agriculture as more than solving issues around food, but also helping grow local economies.
Very nice. And that's fantastic. Here's another question in terms of what advantages does Georgia have, Georgia Ag have, that need to be improved? And what are the 3 key issues that Georgia faces in relation to our neighboring agricultural states?
That's awesome. So the state of Georgia, one of the major advantages we have, and I'll have to slow this down, is we have the westernmost ports on the eastern seaboard. So, and we're actually building a port up the Savannah River in the Appalachian area. So inland farms like Tennessee and Kentucky, they ship their products through the state of Georgia to send it internationally. We also have climates that rival that of California. So we have longer growing seasons and we can produce most of the foods that we import within the state, we can produce those here. So those are two major advantages. The interstate trade, we could definitely benefit from that, but also our climates, we can grow food year round. So I believe we have everything we need here. The biggest challenge is that this department has misappropriated its funds and it suffered from poor leadership. One of the things that the Commissioner of Agriculture does is they're the chief lobbyist for the state with the USDA. And the USDA grants billions of dollars every single year in money for agricultural resources. That is something that I am committed to, is applying for those grants and making sure that our farmers and our communities have the resources they need. The other thing is after November, the Farm Bill, the 2022 Farm Bill will be written. So this is the time in which we put pressure on our beloved Warnock, David Scott, Sanford Bishop and say, hey, these are the things we need you to commit to while your name's on the ballot so that they will be in that Farm Bill and we can protect agriculture and get the things that we need. And one of those things I'm asking for is full legalization of cannabis. Because aside from the criminal justice reform, aside from, helping farmers become more profitable, regardless of where you sit on, regulating or deregulating it, the environmental contributions it has is astounding. It can remove toxins, heavy metals from the soil in just 4 months. It regenerates the soil. It is more impactful at removing CO2 emissions from the air than trees. If you take 1 acre of cannabis, it will remove 4.5 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere in that space within 1 year. If you take that same acre of trees, it will remove 6.5 tons from the atmosphere every 10 years. It's 5 times more powerful at producing paper, and it uses less chemicals. It is now being used if you take cannabis and combine it with a product called lime, you create a product called hempcrete, which is a building material, and it helps reduce house framing costs by 30 to 40%. And it's a vegetable, it's a superfood. So there are so many things that this plant does. And when we just put on our thinking caps and stop thinking about just the 1 or 2 items, but think about the broad gamut of things, there's so much good we can do.
Wow. This is all incredibly inspirational here. And Becky, I'm going to turn to you just to see whether in fact I should go through the rest of the questions or and the big question, which is, how can we help you? Because we really want you to be our Commissioner of Agriculture, and we want to make history here in Georgia.
Yes. Yeah, so definitely fundraising is going to be big. That's a long haul to get to $1 million. But also just sharing our messages whenever we, post on social media, our videos or our content, just making sure people share that and just letting people know who I am. As you can tell, unlike the House District 104 race, this really is my space. And I can live in this space all day and talk about all the things because this is what I get excited about. This is what I love. And I believe that when you have leaders who love what they do, there is no limitation on what can be accomplished. And that's what matters most for me. We have an opportunity to do real good within our state, and I am committed to that.
Very good.
That seems like a fantastic stopping point. And I don't know if everybody else is feeling as inspired as I am by Nakita's vision, but perhaps we could just unmute ourselves just for a moment and give her a huge round of hooting and hollering and applause for how well she, just what a gift she is.
Hugely.
Nakita, thank you so much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
for your service. Thank you for stepping in to run. Thank you for running such a great campaign. Thank you for being so forward thinking. Thank you for being a visionary. Thank you for being such a full-hearted, open-hearted, wise woman. We love you, and
Thanks,
we will
likewise.
be with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, this is one of my favorite groups. And I missed you guys. It's been a long 2 years.
Yes. Well, we're back together.
Yes.
We are back together. We will do some plotting.
Sounds good.
And just a reminder, there are numerous links, donation links to Nakita's campaign in the chat, and it's a great way of getting on her email list, I'm assuming. So
Yes.
drop her a little bit of dough, and you will be kept up to date on fundraising, and hopefully we will hear more, and there will be more opportunities for how we can help you. Nakita, thank you.
Thanks so much,
It is
Becky.
a gift.
See you, Pat. See you, everyone. Thank you so much. Karen, see you guys. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was lovely.
Yeah.
That was lovely. That was lovely.
That was great.
Lovely. This is such her sweet spot too. You know, it is so moving to me to see candidates at the very beginning of their life as candidates, when they're still, you know, they're just learning how to do it. And then you see them later and they are gorgeous. And it's just really lovely. So that was wonderful.
Hopefully we can get some little clips to put on our Facebook. Her ideas are
they're awesome.
Forward.
Yeah. Awesome. They're awesome.
So if there's some things
awesome.
we can incorporate in Facebook and other social media, would be great.
Yes, and I think we will do some more thinking together somehow about how we can help her, in addition to kind of supporting the whole slate. She is quite something.
She is quite something. Yeah.
So we are winding down. I want to just do a little bit of wrapping up before we turn it over to Michelle for a closing song. So just a reminder, the next 10 days are really about electing Imani. If you haven't been able to find your way into the campaign yet, put your name in the chat for phone banking or for canvassing, and or for giving her money, whatever you can do for this last little push. And then after that, we have chosen, and I just want to pause, it's a big thing to choose our House district candidates. We have chosen Jasmine Clark, our longtime dear beloved friend and legislator, and a new candidate, Kelly Kaufman. Will be saying more at the next meeting about how we will connect with the two of them and how we'll go forward. And I'm quite sure that this is not the last we have heard of the Troublers and Nakita Hemingway. And just a word before turning this over to Michelle, when Michelle and I talked about, you know, how to end this meeting, and the shooting in Texas had just happened. The March for Our Lives was being planned. So this song is really for that. Michelle.
Am I unmuted? Yes. This is a song that I kept thinking about after the Uvalde shooting. It's a song that Bob Dylan wrote a long, long time ago, but it's so relevant today. I'm just going to sing part of it. It's called Masters of War. I'm starting. Here I go, Martha. All right, here we go. Come, you masters of war, you that build all the guns, you that build the death planes, you that build the big bombs, you that hide behind walls, you that hide behind death. I just want you to know I can see through your mask. Like Judas of old, you lie and deceive. A world war can be won, you want me to believe. But I see through your eyes, and I see through your brain, like I see through the water that runs down my drain. You've thrown the worst fear that can never be hurled, the fear to bring children into the world, for threatening my baby, unborn and unnamed. You ain't worth the blood that flows in your veins. Let me ask you one question. Is your money that good? Will it buy forgiveness? Do you think that it could? I think you will find when your death takes its toll, all the money you earned will never buy back your soul.
Thank you, Michelle. Sometimes it's time for hope, sometimes it's time for love, and sometimes it's time for fierce. And some of this calls for fierce. Thank you. That was just right. There are several people who have direct mailed me in the chat about wanting to think about how we can be helpful to Nakita. If any of you have not written me and want to be part of a little team of thinking about how we can be helpful to Nakita, if you would just put your name in the chat about that, and maybe a few of us will put our heads together and see what we can come up with. That's what we got today. Our next meeting is on, Sunday, July 10th at 4 o'clock. And we will be moving forward in all these ways. There's a photograph of some of our troublers at the march yesterday. Thank you for those who were there. Thank you again for everyone who is working so hard. This is a moment when I am very aware that there are so many troublers really all in for what's happening right now. And so blessings on all of you. Thanks to all of you. So grateful to be in this boat with all of you, and forward we go, and lots of love to everyone, and again, put your name in the chat about Nakita if you want to, and much gratitude, and we're done. We'll see you we'll see you way before July, but we'll see you also in July. And actually, just take your mute off if you would, and just do a shout out for all the people that are working so hard right now.
Yay! Yes.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Calling out everybody for everybody's hard work. All the sign deliverers and the canvassers and the phone bankers and the contributors and the postcarders and everybody being the warp and the weft of Imani's campaign, and awesome, grateful. Have a wonderful evening.